Ever wonder what kind of things you can do if you're feeling anxious and stressed out? Find out on today's show. Help, I'm anxious! Starting right now!
Welcome to the Weird and Wacky Planet's Nature Just Got Real podcast for kids. Join KB Carr, author of the Weird and Wacky Planet series, with Chuck Darwin, Tito, and Captain Jack, as they bring you the real skinny on what's really going on in the natural world. And now, here's your host, KB Carr.
Hi, I'm KB Carr, host of the Nature Just Got Real podcast for kids. And today we are talking to Maryanne Tranter about stress and especially what stress means if you're a kid and what can you do about it. And Maryanne is a nurse practitioner. She's a pediatric nurse practitioner. So she knows a whole lot about things that go on with kids. And so, Maryanne, thank you. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you again for inviting me. I'm really excited to share what I can with your audience and your kids.
Well, this is a big subject because right now we're all experiencing a lot of stress around the coronavirus and other things. Everybody's out of their routine. We're stuck at home with with the ones we love, one hopes, or not.
Yes.
So when we're quarantined, and so that's just kind of a perfect storm, isn't it, to create a lot of stress and a lot of feelings that maybe we don't quite know what to do with. So what is stress? What is stress exactly?
Okay. So stress is a way that your body reacts when it is overwhelmed and you're feeling overwhelmed and your body is working extra hard in one way or another mentally, or you can work your body physically and have reactions because of stress.
Sure.
So stressing your body in your emotions can be giving it too much, or your physical body too much. So yeah, stress, like the mental stress we talk about, or physical, it affects every cell in your body. It's not just your mind, but it can affect all your body too.
I believe that. Boy, I really do. When I'm really stressed out, I don't breathe correctly. And I know that I don't breathe deeply. It's very shallow and fast, and I think that affects my brain too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, so with that, what stress does is it does, when you have all this impact on your body releases a hormone to try to help. But this hormone's called like a corticosteroid, it's called. And the thing is it is trying to do something to help your body, but it's causing some problems with, like, it affects other parts of your body, so you can't fight infection as well. So that's why it's really important to, if you do have stress, that it affects your body and it can cause you to be more open to illnesses.
Okay. All right. That makes sense too. So it lowers your ability to fight off illnesses, lowers your immune system, stresses your immune system.
Yeah.
And how do kids react differently to stress? So then like maybe say adults do.
Right.
Or from each other maybe.
Sometimes you might argue that adults do this too, but definitely we see in children, or the way that they react to stress is varied by personality, like all of us. Mm-hmm. But it's really good for kids to know this, because if you see yourself this happening to you, you can be like, oh, it's because all these things are happening in my life right now. I'm under stress. So kids might be short-tempered and act out more. They might, just snap back at their siblings or their family members, and they don't even know why. They're not really, that nobody did anything, but they're just short-tempered. They might have difficulty paying attention, which is why it might be hard for you kids while you have to do your schoolwork now at home. I mean, it's hard to pay attention, but know that it might be related to the stress. Younger kids, if you see maybe you have a younger sister or brother and they were potty trained and now they're not, or maybe
Oh,
you were able to do things and now you can't, because what happens in our bodies when we have a lot of stress, we go back to the things that we knew better, like in the past. And so if it's a
oh,
new thing that we learned, it's hard to remember it when we're under stress. So we go back.
that makes sense.
You might, because it affects all your body, you might have headaches or body aches. You should tell your parents if you're having those too. If you're an older kid, we worry about experimenting with any kind of alcohol. So that's important too, if you feel this stress, to talk. But the number one thing to know is some kids, maybe you, might feel like it's nothing and you don't feel it. So that is you might have stress and not exactly
Not even
know that you
know it.
have it.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of snapping at each other going on at my house right now. Yeah, we're having to just kind of take a step back and just kind of say, okay, we're in this situation, and we just need to breathe and try to be more considerate of each other and give each other our space because we're living in a small place and there's nowhere to go. So
Absolutely.
we're having a little bit of that going on. Yeah. And what types of things could cause kids to be stressed? Is it different than adults?
Um, well, I think that it can be the same as adults. I mean, but with kids, that because we are still, as children, are still learning and learning about their bodies, learning about the world, there's a lot of things they don't know that maybe their
Mm,
parents do know. So there's a
mm,
lot of things that cause children stress just because they don't really understand it, all of it. So that's why it's important to ask your parents. Maybe your parents don't understand it all. Nobody understands everything,
yeah.
but maybe they understand a little bit more to help you be a little bit more calm with that knowledge. So children might not know as much. If they're around other people, children, the younger you are, especially, you and your personality are affected and influenced by people around you. So maybe you're doing and having a great day, but maybe somebody at your house is having a really bad day and is really stressed and short, and that might change the way you feel. So it's important to
Yeah.
know, is that affecting you as well?
Good. Yep. Yep. That for sure. I can relate to a lot of that actually. Um, and what kinds of things can kids do about it? So say they now know they're stressed. They're looking at the signs going, oh yeah, maybe that's not the way I react to something normally. So I think there's some stress there. What can they do? Or if they're feeling very
Right.
anxious, especially these days with the way we're living, it's out of our routines, and we've got this virus out there, and things can be really scary right now. So what kind of things what can they do about it?
So one thing I didn't mention, which I'm glad I could touch on, is another sign of stress would be difficulty sleeping. And
Mm,
so that might be, so maybe you don't feel it, but then maybe you can't sleep at night. So some of the things that
right.
you can do is to, first of all, know that you don't get rid of stress. You don't get rid of anxiety. It's
Mm,
not like, oh, I just am not going to think about it. It's going to be gone. You manage it. And so you have control to do something about it. Just, you can't just ignore it and it just goes away. So managing it is what you do. And what you can do is you can ask your parents for a little attention to say, hey, can we just have 5 minutes together if you need, or maybe you have an
mm,
older sibling or, a sister or brother that you're just like, can we just do, and maybe play a game, and you can ask for a little bit of attention and focus. And so you can go to them and say, let's have a few minutes together. If
aw,
you might be able to you need to find a routine. So you're not in your routine. Your routine is like, after, get up, brush your teeth, or eat breakfast, brush your teeth, get dressed, go to school. I mean, you're not in your routine. And then there's also those routines at school.
yeah.
You can make a routine at home. So the kids can like say, all right, today we're going to have, after breakfast, I'm going to read my book for a half hour. And so you might pick 3 things you like to do and do it each day, as well as what your routine is before bed. And then if you are having a hard time sleeping, what you can do is if you have a hard time writing it down, you can ask a parent or an older sibling, hey, I can't sleep. Can we just write a bunch of stuff out of my brain down, get it out of my brain so I can sleep? So write down those things.
Yeah.
Or say, so you won't forget about it. You can talk about it and deal with it later. But don't worry, get it out of your brain and put it on paper, and so then it's like you'll think about it another time.
Like journaling.
Yes.
A lot of adults, keep a journal, and that's exactly why they do it.
Right.
That's a great idea. I love that. Write it down.
And then 2 things that I think are really helpful that you can physically or mentally do is, one is you can breathe. It's called 4-count breathing. So the first one might be when you breathe in, you count to 4. You hold your breath, 4. You breathe out, 4. You hold breath, 4. Breathe in, 4. So when you do that 4-count breathing with those pauses, that helps your body physically calm down.
It's kind of a reset.
It's a reset, exactly.
Yeah, reset. I like it.
And you can do a few rounds of that. And then the last thing that I'll recommend is if you're feeling super anxious, you can't breathe, you don't know, you can think about your 5 senses. And then just stop.
What's that look like?
You would stop, and then you have 5 senses. And your first you can think of is, okay, what do I see? And just pick one thing you see. I see my red cup right there. It can be as simple as that. And then you would okay, what do I hear? And you stop and you listen. And you might hear, I hear my mom in the kitchen. I hear the bird outside. I hear the dog bark, whatever, hear something.
I'm hoping for the birds. Yeah, I like that one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Then stop and say, do I smell anything right now? Okay, maybe you don't smell anything. All right. Oh, my clothes smell like my my laundry room. That's
Right.
the good end. If you can't tell, or maybe you do smell food, or maybe you smell some smoke from somebody's campfire, or maybe, so whatever, just stop and smell. And then you might think about touching, and where are my hands? What do I feel? My clothing, or do I feel something touching me? I feel this cord here. Something simple, touch. And the last one is taste. And so you might think about you can think about either getting something to taste to bring you right there, or just think about the last taste you had in your mouth. And like an orange, what was the last thing you had, or something you loved to taste? So that will help you relax and be in the present moment, along with the breathing and these tips to help you feel a little less stressed.
Oh, I love that. I love the 4x4 breath. I know that does work sometimes it will work for people having a panic attack. That will sometimes bring them out. So I love that one. And the senses. I mean, how many times do we just stop and do those 5 things and listen to what's out there and look, I love that. I'm gonna do that after this, actually. just to
Great.
have fun with that. Yeah.
Maybe you're unfazed by your stress and you don't feel it, and this will help you.
Right? You never know. You never know.
Right.
We have a few stressors over here. Jack doesn't. She's sleeping, but yeah, you just don't know what's going on. So that's awesome. And lastly, the last question is, what do you want kids to know about stress? What do you want to leave us with?
Well, I think with what I started with it's okay to have it. It's not just going to go away. It's the goal is to manage it, and then your body can understand this is sometimes a part of life, and you can feel better about things. And so the one thing I want kids to know is I don't want to think about there's stress in my life. That's the end. I don't know what I'm going to do. You have the power to manage your stress. You have the power to feel a little bit more control.
You have
and
the
that
power.
you can take care of yourself that way and feel better.
I love that. You are empowered. You have the power. You have a superpower. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Maryanne, for being here with us again. I always learn so much when you're here. Hope we have you on again. We find another subject.
I would be
for
happy to. So thank you for inviting me. And yes, and you send me any questions kids have, and I would be happy to answer them.
You know, that's not a bad idea. We might do one of those. All right. Thank you so much, Maryanne.
Thank you.
I hope you got as much out of that as I did. And now here's some words from our sponsor.
Have you ever seen a dragon covered in fingernails? How about a mermaid who vacuums the ocean floor every day? Or a pocket Dracula no bigger than your thumb? You can meet these animals and more in the book Weird and Wacky Endangered Creatures 1, part of the Weird and Wacky Planet series by KB Carr. Look for them wherever books are sold and get your flippers on your own coffee.
It's time for the Weird and Wacky Word of the Week.
The word of the week is hormone. It is a noun and means a chemical substance produced in the endocrine gland and transported to the blood to a certain tissue, on which it exerts a specific effect. In this case, we are talking about the hormones released into the bloodstream caused by stress, which causes the fight or flight effect. See how many times you can use the word hormone in a sentence today and impress someone with your genius. Until next week, I am Dr. Chuck Darwin. Cheerio.
Thank you, Chuck. And now here's Captain Jack to answer another one of your questions.
Got a question? Ask the captain.
Ahoy, mateys! This week's question comes from Katie in Iowa. Katie asks, how can I tell if my dog is stressed out? Well, Katie, I know how I behave when I'm stressed out about something. Symptoms include pacing, shaking, yawning, drooling, licking, panting, crying or barking, shedding, or trying to hide. Even peeing and pooping in the house. Stressors for me are usually fireworks, thunder, being left alone, or when Mommy gives me the wrong treat for the wrong occasion, like when I first come inside, I should get the first thing in the morning treat and not the regular come inside for the rest of the day treat. What can I say? I'm a creature of habit. Hope that answers your question, Katie, and I hope you can help your dog if he or she gets too stressed out. If any of you want to ask me something, just email it to naturejustgotreal@gmail.com. I'm always listening. This is Captain Jack signing off till next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jack. And if you have a question for Jack, just email it to her at naturejustgotreal@gmail.com, or you can leave a message for her at 616-259-6742. And now here's Tito with this week's Creature Feature.
And now, the Weird and Wacky Weekly Creature Feature.
This week I'm talking about animals that have the most stress, and those animals are primates. And that group includes you humans. Also chimpanzees like Chuck Darwin, but that dude seems like he deals with it pretty well. The primates that struggle the most with stress and stress-related illnesses, however, are overwhelmingly humans. Why do humans and their primate cousins get more stress-related diseases than any other member of the animal kingdom? The answer, according to Dr. Robert Sapolsky, who is a Stanford University neuroscientist, is that people, apes, and monkeys are highly intelligent social creatures with far too much spare time on their hands. The rest of us are too busy looking for food to worry too much about anything else, am I right? Dr. Sapolsky says primates are super smart, although I might argue with that on occasion, and organized just enough to devote their free time to being miserable to each other and stressing each other out. But if they get chronically stressed, they are going to compromise their health. So essentially, you've evolved to be smart enough to make yourself sick. Man, glad I'm a tree frog. Stop worrying so much about the things you can't control. Do something about the things you can and take a few deep breaths. I'm Tito, and I'll see yous all next week.
That's it for today's show. I hope you learned some good techniques to calm yourself down. I'm going to try that 4x4 breath. Thank you to Maryanne Tranter for being with us and teaching us that. And I hope you go have a calm adventure in your neighborhood. Until next week.
That wraps up the show for today. Thank you to our sponsor, Weird and Wacky Planet. And thank you for listening. Thank you for caring, and thank you for sharing. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Let us know if you do, and we might mention you on the show. Until next week, go have an adventure in your neighborhood.